a civilization older than Rome, older than Greece, older than almost everything you learned in school, and in 1935, it erased its own name from every map on Earth. Not because it was conquered, not because it lost a war, because one man sent a letter asking the world to forget it. The name Persia, 2,500 years old, the name of one of history's greatest empires, vanished in a single diplomatic note, and the replacement? A word that quietly tied ancient kings, Nazi racial scientists, a Middle Eastern dictator, and a Holocaust rescuer into one of the strangest stories in world history. What does a country's name actually mean? And who really gets to choose it? This is the story of how one of the most powerful civilizations in history deleted itself from the world's vocabulary, and what the new name revealed about nationalism, racial ideology, and the long shadow of empire. It starts not in 1935, but 25 centuries earlier. 1. The word Persia was never Persian. It's Greek. The ancient Greeks called the region Persis, derived from the southwestern province of Pars, home to the original Persian tribes. When those tribes built an empire that ruled 44% of the entire world's population, the Greeks' name for one corner of it became the label the entire world used. For millennia, the people living there called their land something completely different. That mismatch between what outsiders called the place and what insiders called home is where this entire story begins. 2. In 550 BC, Cyrus the Great founded the Achaemenid Empire, the first true superpower in recorded history. At its peak under Darius the Great, it stretched 5.5 million square kilometers, from the Balkans to India's Indus Valley, from Egypt to Central Asia. No empire before it had ever held so much. Cyrus freed the Jews from Babylonian captivity, allowed conquered peoples to keep their religions, and built the world's first postal network. The Cyrus cylinder, a clay tablet from 539 BC, is still called the oldest surviving charter of human rights. 3. The name the people of that empire called their own land was Iran, and it had been in use long before anyone outside the region noticed. The word descends from the ancient Sanskrit and Old Iranian Aryanam Vaya, meaning home of the Aryans, a geographic and ethnic identity embedded in Zoroastrian scripture, Sassanid royal inscriptions, and the oldest layers of Iranian civilization. Every Persian king knew this name. Every poet used it. The outside world just never cared to learn it. 4. In 330 BC, Alexander the Great burned Persepolis to the ground, the ceremonial capital of the Achaemenid Empire, built over generations from the tribute of dozens of conquered nations, was turned to ash in a single night. Historians still argue whether Alexander ordered the burning in a drunken stupor or as deliberate political theater. What followed is what matters. The Achaemenid dynasty was gone, but the land, the language, and the identity survived. Persia was not erased. It simply changed rulers, over and over for the next 23 centuries. 5. The Arab conquest of the 7th century AD posed the deepest threat the Iranian identity had ever faced. Islamic armies swept through the Sassanid Empire in less than 2 decades, ending the last great pre-Islamic Persian dynasty in 651 AD. The Zoroastrian faith that had defined Persian civilization for over 1,000 years was gradually displaced. Arabic became the language of scholarship and religion. Yet instead of disappearing, the Persian language and cultural identity absorbed the new influence and re-emerged, more complex, but unmistakably itself. 6. The man who saved the Iranian identity from erasure was not a king. He was a poet. Abul Qasim Ferdowsi spent 30 years, from roughly 977 to 1010 AD, composing the Shahnameh, the Book of Kings. 60,000 rhyming couplets telling the full story of Iran from creation to the Arab conquest, written almost entirely in Persian, deliberately avoiding Arabic vocabulary, as an act of cultural defiance. The Shahnameh became the foundational text of Iranian identity, read, memorized, and recited for 1,000 years after his death. 7. Then came the Mongols. In the 13th century, the armies of Genghis Khan swept through the Iranian plateau, with a violence so total that historians still cannot agree on the death toll. Nishapur, one of the great cities of the medieval world, was depopulated entirely. Irrigated farmland built over millennia was destroyed in weeks. Iran lost an estimated 1/3 to 1/2 of its population. And then the pattern repeated. The Mongol rulers who settled in Iran were eventually absorbed into Persian culture, learning the language and sponsoring the arts they had nearly destroyed. 8. By the early 20th century, what had once been history's greatest empire had become the object of competing imperial appetites. Britain controlled the south, Russia controlled the north. The Qajar dynasty was weak, corrupt, and thoroughly penetrated by foreign interests. The Anglo-Persian Oil Company, founded in 1908 after a British engineer struck oil in Khuzestan, extracted Iranian petroleum with almost nothing flowing back to the Iranian state. This humiliation of a civilization with a 2,500-year history treated as a resource extraction zone was the powder keg that a Cossack officer named Reza Khan detonated in 1921. 9. On February 21, 1921, Reza Khan marched 1,200 troops into Tehran and seized the capital in a coup. Born in 1878 in the provincial town of Alasht in Mazandaran, he had risen entirely through military rank. No royal blood, no family connections, nothing but ruthless competence. Within 4 years, he had suppressed rebellions across the country, dismantled tribal resistance, and maneuvered the National Assembly into deposing the Qajar Shah. On December 13, 1925, Reza Khan was proclaimed the first Shah of the Pahlavi dynasty, Iran's first new royal house in 136 years. 10. Reza Shah's modernization program was brutal, fast, and deliberately theatrical. He studied Ataturk's transformation of Turkey, secular education, national dress codes, women's rights, state-directed industrialization, and launched his own version. He built the Trans-Iranian Railway, established Tehran University, banned the veil, abolished traditional tribal dress, and launched a legal system modeled on European secular law. The message was deliberate. This country was ancient and modern simultaneously, and it would not be defined by the outside world's assumptions about what a Middle Eastern nation was supposed to be. 11. And then came the name. On March 21, 1935, Nowruz, the Persian New Year, Reza Shah formally requested that all foreign governments stop using Persia and refer to his country exclusively as Iran. The official Iranian circular explained the reasoning directly. Persia evoked associations with weakness, ignorance, misery, lack of independence, disorderly condition, and incapacity, a portrait of the humiliated 19th century that Reza Shah's regime had spent a decade dismantling. Iran reached past the humiliation, back to the ancient name insiders had always used for themselves. 12. Here is where it gets complicated. In 1935, Nazi Germany was expanding its global ideological influence, and German diplomats in Tehran saw the name change as an opening. The word Iran shares its root with the word Aryan. Nazi racial ideology had designated Aryans as the master race. German representatives actively promoted the notion that Iranians, sharing this linguistic kinship, were racial cousins of the German people. Reza Shah, who admired Hitler's speed in building a powerful centralized state, was receptive to the flattery. In 1936, the Nazis formally amended the Nuremberg race laws to classify Iranians as Aryan. 13. By 1940 and 1941, nearly half of all Iranian imports were German. Trade between the two countries had accelerated dramatically. Nazi Germany's Persian-language radio service, Radio Zisin, broadcast propaganda directly into Iranian homes, claiming Hitler was the Shiite Messiah. The 12th Imam returned to destroy Jews and communists. German intelligence operatives moved through Tehran freely. To the British and Soviets watching from the north and south, this looked like a country tilting toward the Axis and sitting directly astride the supply route connecting the British Empire to the Soviet Union. 14. On August 25, 1941, British and Soviet forces invaded Iran simultaneously from south and north. The operation took 4 days. Reza Shah had declared neutrality, but the Allies were not interested in neutrality. They needed the Trans-Iranian Railway to supply Stalin's army, and they needed German agents out of the country. On September 11th, the British envoy delivered a simple message to the Iranian Prime Minister: Reza Shah must abdicate. 5 days later, on September 16, 1941, Reza Shah stepped down. He died in exile in Johannesburg, South Africa, on July 26, 1944. 15. Now here is the question historians still argue. Was the 1935 name change actually about the Nazis? The counter-argument is substantial. The name Iran predates Nazism by over 2,000 years. It appears in Zoroastrian texts, Sassanid inscriptions, and Ferdowsi's Shahnameh. Reza Shah's reforms followed Ataturk's secular Turkish nationalism far more closely than Hitler's racial ideology. The official rebranding was conducted in French, not German, targeting the global Francophone diplomatic audience. The name change was a sovereign act of cultural reclamation. The Nazi exploitation of it was opportunistic, not foundational. 16. And then there is Abdol Hossein Sardari. While the debate over Reza Shah's motives continued, an Iranian diplomat in occupied Paris was using the same Aryan logic the Nazis had attached to Iran to save Jewish lives. Sardari, Iranian consul in Paris from 1940, issued hundreds of Iranian passports, many to non-Iranian Jews, arguing to Nazi officials that Iranian Jews were of Aryan descent and therefore not subject to racial laws. He saved an estimated several hundred lives at personal risk, without authorization from Tehran, driven entirely by individual conscience. He became known as the Iranian Schindler. 17. After Reza Shah's abdication, his son Mohammad Reza Pahlavi aligned immediately with the Allies. Iran declared war on Germany on September 9, 1943. Between November 28 and December 1st of that same year, Tehran hosted the first summit between Roosevelt, Churchill, and Stalin, a conference that shaped the final phase of the war. The country suspected of Axis sympathies 2 years earlier was now hosting the meeting that would define the post-war world. A petition to restore the name Persia after Germany's defeat was quietly filed and quietly ignored. 18. Winston Churchill himself was not entirely happy about the name change. In a 1941 memo, he suggested British officials should continue using Persia to avoid confusion with Iraq, a practical concern, not ideological. The British Foreign Office had spent years mocking the request in internal notes, debating circumflex placement, and worrying what the rename meant for the Anglo-Persian Oil Company and the Imperial Bank of Persia. Both eventually changed their names. The oil company became the Anglo-Iranian Oil Company in 1935, and after nationalization, the National Iranian Oil Company. 19. The deeper truth about Iran versus Persia is that they were always describing two different things. Persia was the outsider's word, Greek in origin, applied by traders and conquerors who knew only one province of a vast civilization. Iran was the insider's word, ancient, multilingual, inclusive of all the peoples of the plateau: Persians, Kurds, Azeris, Arabs, Baluch, Lurs. When Reza Shah demanded the world use Iran, part of his message was this: this country contains more than the Greeks ever saw. Stop defining us by what you could observe from the outside. 20. The irony cuts deep. The name Persia, used for over 2,000 years, was the name of a single ethnic group within a multi-ethnic empire. Reza Shah replaced it with a word that, in the Nazi vocabulary of the 1930s, carried connotations of racial purity and supremacy. But in its original ancient usage, Iran was inclusive, the opposite of what the Nazis made of it. The same word, two completely opposing meanings. The debate over which meaning defines it is still not settled. 21. The 1979 Islamic Revolution did not restore Persia. The revolutionaries who overthrew Mohammad Reza Shah and established the Islamic Republic had no interest in reviving a word associated with monarchy, Zoroastrianism, and the pre-Islamic past they were explicitly rejecting. Iran stayed Iran. But the revolution created a new identity fracture, a country whose ancient name had been co-opted by Nazis, whose official name now described a theocratic state, and whose people were increasingly split between those who called themselves Iranian, in the political sense, and Persian, in the cultural one. 22. Today, millions of people around the world use both names simultaneously. Persian, for the culture, the language, the poetry, the food, the carpets, the 25th century civilization. Iran, for the state, the government, the passport, the the map? The split is not confusion, it is precision. It captures exactly what Reza Shah's 1935 letter could never fully anticipate. That a name carries history inside it, and when you change the name, you do not erase the history. You just make it harder to see.